The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom, informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI, food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It's Wednesday, April the 18th, 2024, and this is program number 1166 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. And of course, in addition to 101.1 FM radio, you can also get us at our website. It is rcisaintlucia.com. We're also streaming live on our Facebook page. Just search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International. Of course, please be sure to like and share that as well with your friends and family. And don't forget, you can also check us out on our website. That is rcisaintlucia.com. All our previous shows are also available there for download. Now, if you don't mind, we can want to send some birthday greetings going out to Mr. Earl Huntley. Happy birthday to you, sir, and we do hope that you're having a very blessed one. And also sending birthday greetings out to Chef Robbie Skeet. Happy birthday to you, and we hope that you're having a fantastic birthday celebration. A bit of history for today. In the year 1492, you know what that's going to be about. Christopher Columbus signed a contract with the Spanish monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella, to find the Indies with the stated goal of converting people to Catholicism. And that contract promised him 10% of all riches found and the governorship of any lands encountered. In the year 1895, the Treaty of Shimonoseki was signed, ending the first Sino-Japanese War, and that was a war fought between China, the Qing dynasty there, and Japan between 1894 and 1895. 1961, on this day, saw 1,400 Cuban exiles land in the Bay of Pigs in a doomed attempt to overthrow Fidel Castro. In this day, in 1982, the Canadian Prime Minister at the time, Pierre Trudeau, of course, that's the Prime Minister, father of the current Prime Minister, and Queen Elizabeth II signed the Proclamation of the Constitution Act, which established the Charter of Rights and Freedoms as part of Canada's new constitution. And in the year 2012, on this day, the 8th century St. Cuthbert Gospel, what was known as Europe's oldest intact book, was purchased by the British Library for £9 million. We now move on to our dish of the day. The Daily Dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grozile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program here at the Lunchroom in Radio Caribbean International. Now, of course, you may have heard that Jamaican phrase, "We be small, but we talawa." And I think that perhaps fairly well characterizes the Caribbean and the contribution that the Caribbean has made to the globe, especially considering our small physical sizes in terms of land mass and relatively even smaller population. In particular, within the context of the English-speaking Caribbean, not even 6 million people within that region. But certainly, the Caribbean has been a hotbed of activity, and we've been on the front line of a lot of interesting changes over the period of history. And of course, just today, early on in our dish of the day, our history for today, we heard about Christopher Columbus, and of course, he landed in the Bahamas and explored the Caribbean in his first voyage across the Atlantic Ocean in search of the Indies. And in fact, for most of his life, he never thought beyond the fact that he had gone anywhere else but the Indies, which of course was had become a major point of interest for Europe as a source of a lot of things that that continent and its people were interested in, including, of course, China and spices and gems and the like. And so, of course, that idea of coming across here was inspired by that. But even that said, the Caribbean still continued to be a very important hotspot, and in terms of some firsts, of course, it was a highly sought after region because of the commodities that could be produced in these tropics, and a lot of things found a great expansion as a result of what happened in the Caribbean, whether it's from coffee to cocoa and the like. But of course, in terms of our people and the contributions that we have made, it certainly is fairly well known by so many around the world. But we have had, of course, a very difficult journey, and quite often are seen as perhaps just a place to vacation. And unfortunately, sometimes the changing tides have caused for us to be seen to be less important, as the case may be. Of course, during the Cold War, the proximity of Cuba to the United States caused for lots of interest there. But even before that, a large amount of interest played in the islands around us, from Puerto Rico to Haiti, for instance, and around the entire Caribbean Sea, influence there coming out of the United States of America. And it has been largely a situation where one power decides, or one other power decides, that they have rights over the Caribbean. And we've seen that from the very, very beginning. That is essentially the history of St. Lucia. One Frenchman, Duparquet, would decide that, look, he has rights over St. Lucia and many other islands of the in the chain. And another person, an Englishman, Lord Willoughby, would decide, well, he has rights over St. Lucia. And that was the back and forth that quite often we found ourselves in, that people thought that they had the right to just simply claim a massive swath of land and say that this was theirs to keep and to develop as they so chose. In fact, in many instances, in the very early periods, we were talking about just that. We were not talking about even, yes, the countries got involved and the kingdoms got involved, but a lot of times it was private enterprise. And in the very similar way, where one could say that in Europe, dukes were simply given counties and large areas of land, and they said, "Hey, this is yours, and do with it as you so wish." This was how the Caribbean was in fact very early on treated, and so you saw individuals simply saying, "Hey." They'll go to the king and they say, "You know what? give me the rights to St. Lucia and St. Vincent, and I will go across and I will establish a good colony for you to the benefit of the crown. And that's what happened with individuals like the Duke of Montague, and who attempted to establish a settlement in the 1720s, and continued throughout our history. And so this level of, one can at least perhaps classify it as arrogance, sometimes still seems to continue even beyond the this post-colonial period within which we find ourselves. And of course, one will also, some argue that, look, the Caribbean is still one of the regions of the world which is colonized. And we still see the presence of what could effectively be considered French colonies, in as much as they are now termed as overseas departments of France. But in some instances, they actually are collectivities and, in fact, are territories. We see English or British overseas territories in our waters. We still see the presence of Dutch territories in our waters as well, in the case of the ABC Islands, as well as St. Martin, and of course as well U.S. territories, such as the United States Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. And so this presence, of course, of effectively still colonial interest within the Caribbean, perhaps sometimes still filters into the whole matter of dealing with the independent countries of the Caribbean and how the rest of the world sometimes perceives them. And that whole issue has typified a lot of our challenges with respect to how we are seen, and quite often in even our attempts to be able to get some level of differentiated treatment at institutions which have been created for countries that have tens of millions and hundreds of millions of people, even though we are very, very minuscule states in this regard, we are effectively treated in the very same way quite often. And that has been our plight in dealing with the systems of trade that have been established around the world through the World Trade Organization, for instance. And we've seen the impact that has had, of course, on our very agrarian industries, including bananas and that sector, and sugar as well, and how those certainly came under tremendous scrutiny and had to change. And the change that we're speaking of is really effectively getting to a point of death or calamity with respect to these industries. And the challenges, of course, go beyond those, what you could say, the adopted industries that we got moving out of colonialism, to even the matter of those sectors which we tried to move into in the current era. And you can think of things like financial services, for example. And many of our islands have attempted to get more into those sectors. And we've also seen, interestingly enough, how the British overseas territories have been the biggest beneficiaries of international financial services. But of course, we've seen how many times our islands have been blacklisted regarding our financial services sector, even though they are, again, fairly minuscule in comparison to the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars that are held in companies and held in trust in many of these territories like the BVI and the Caymans and Turks and Caicos and Bermuda, which have had a very long standing use of these systems to to exact some sort of wealth out of them for the benefit of their own citizens. And it goes beyond that as well, of course. We've seen with the rise of the citizenship by investment programs. And, quite often these islands say that, look, this is effectively one of the few things that we actually have in the rights to be able to say that you are from Dominica, you are from St. Lucia, you are from St. Vincent, and some islands have decided, though not all, to say that we are going to provide you with citizenship if in fact you invest in our island. Now, even the history of foreign direct investment is a very, very controversial one, certainly for places like St. Lucia, because the models of investment that we've seen have largely been based on hospitality services, have largely been requiring the island to effectively begin to give up a lot of its prized and most beautiful parts, and of course its beaches and its areas of outstanding beauty. We are then saying, hey, please come and invest, and particularly invest in hotel resorts, which have largely been, especially in our neck of the woods, all-inclusives. And by all-inclusives, that is all-inclusive for the visitor, but perhaps almost all-exclusive for the rest of the population and the people who will live around. And we have seen how these types of these models of tourism have caused for friction over the years in different parts of the world, and certainly we've seen our fair share of it right here in St. Lucia as well. So it has certainly been a significantly challenging journey when it comes to trying to see how we can eke out a living and in fact ensure that we can do better for our people. And of course, within the context of foreign direct investment, what that has meant is that we have lumped tremendous amounts of favor and curry upon our these investors. They're the ones who enjoy tax-free holidays. They're the ones who are, in fact, are even after these tax holidays have ended, we bring on additional tax holidays to benefit them. And so, never mind, for example, we see properties that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars being put down and owned by individuals. In very many instances, they may very well be exempt from actually contributing through property taxes. And it is that big debate as to whether this the matter of foreign direct investment that is coming in, is it are the benefits that are provided to these entities that are bringing those investments, are we seeing a sufficiently commensurate level of benefit for the population? And many, of course, have classified some of these resorts and these systems as being extractive more than inclusive. And so, in fact, we are not benefiting to the extent that we would sometimes like to, of course. Now, of course, when it comes to this issue of the rights of individuals, of course, many times people are coming in and they're expecting that they have the right to effectively do nearly what they want. And that has been a big debate, of course, with respect to our development. And front and center within it right now is that of Guyana. a country that is tremendously blessed in terms of its natural resources, from the extensive amount of land that it has, a land that, of course, is blessed as well with large amounts of water resources, large amounts of forest resources, lots of wildlife and amazing natural beauty. But in addition to that, the mineral resources that it is also blessed with are certainly the envy of many countries. And even so, because of a lot of different issues over the years, Guyana has in fact been one of the poorer, by virtue of GDP per capita, one of the poorer countries in the region. And this is likely, and by all indications, to change quite rapidly. And so Guyana has been, for the past couple of years, the fastest growing country in the world, and it certainly is on a path to be able to become once again a significant magnet for investment, and likely as well a magnet for migration. And so what we saw in the past, in the turn of the 20th century, and hundreds, if not thousands, of people from the rest of the Caribbean flocking to the Guyanas to look for opportunity, it is quite likely that we are going to, in fact, see this potential return of that, and the ascendancy of Guyana in this regard. And of course, this is all largely as a result of the extraction of hydrocarbons, the petroleum resources that many often said that they had always known existed, but are finally now at a point where they were being extracted for commercial purposes. Guyana is seeing this tremendous growth. Now, there have been a lot of issues as well as to whether they got a good enough deal, as to whether, in fact, more could be had in terms of the resources, and whether there should have been an effort at nationalization, as we had seen in some countries, like, for example, that of Norway, as well as Saudi Arabia and others. But they are benefiting at this point, and it appears that already some may be saying, hey, maybe you need to close the tap a bit on the extent of what you're doing. And this has become, of course, very topical as a result of that interview which was held by the president of Guyana with the BBC on a program called Hard Talk. And it has certainly raised this entire issue of the stance that the Caribbean needs to take in dealing with its affairs at the global level. And the suggestion, of course, is that we have certainly put up valiant resistance in the past, and perhaps we certainly do need to ensure that we make our voices and our position heard even better. And so it's a very interesting article which I did share, and I promised that I was going to read it again for the benefit of listeners. And it's entitled, Caribbean Leaders Need to Stop Taking It on the Chin and Unite to Defy Condescending West. An article by Kenneth Mohammed, which was published last week, Wednesday, in The Guardian. It reads as follows. Caribbean nations have such a long history of economic violence, manipulation, and exploitation perpetrated against them by the West that it is generally expected that they take it on the chin. Recently, however, their leaders have been standing up to a spate of condescension and sanctioned bullying. In an interview with the BBC reporter Stephen Saka, the president of Guyana, Irfan Ali, displayed what can only be termed controlled rage. Ali scolded and schooled Saka on the hypocrisy of the developed world, questioning his agenda and integrity. The interview reverberated around the global south. This was not the first time a British journalist had tried to patronize Ali. Last year, Richard Madley, on the subject of slavery reparations with Ali was outrageously disrespectful. We in the Caribbean are the canaries in the coal mine, on the front lines of the catastrophic consequences of the climate crises, and yet the least of the climate offenders. Saka and his lack of understanding of the vastness of Guyana and its advances in creating a net zero footprint was not just unprofessional, but reeked of imperial condescension. The arrogance of economic violence, never by chance and always by choice, is perpetrated when structural policy choices are made for the benefit of the richest and most powerful people and countries, while subjugating the weak and impoverished. In the corrupt expanse of global geopolitics, where might is right and money talks, while poverty is forced to listen, the Caribbean often finds itself relegated to the sidelines, dismissed as inconsequential, a mere tourist destination. However, beneath the palms lies a complex history of economic violence and exploitation at the hands of Western powers, from the shackles of slavery and colonialism to the insidious grasp of neocolonialism and neoliberalism. The resilient people of the Caribbean endured a tumultuous journey towards sovereignty. For centuries, European powers ravaged the region to fuel their imperial ambitions, the legacy of which is etched into the culture, economies, and politics of Caribbean society. Consider the catastrophic saga of Haiti, serving as a stark reminder of the lasting consequences of historical injustice. Forced to pay exorbitant reparations to France after independence, Haiti has struggled to break free from the cycle of poverty and instability, marred by crime, corruption, and mismanagement, entrenching its dependence on foreign assistance. Consider Cuba. Since the Cuban Revolution, which ended in 1959, the nation has been subjected to a relentless campaign of economic aggression aimed at suffocating its socialist experiment. From trade embargoes to covert sabotage, the U.S. has spared no effort in its bid to cripple Cuba's economy and undermine its sovereignty. Other issues are more furtive. For example, the widespread establishment of U.S. military bases across the Caribbean. From Guantanamo Bay in Cuba to Chaguaramas in Trinidad and Tobago, these bases symbolize American hegemony, projecting its power and influence, a constant reminder of the Caribbean's subjugation. Another covert issue in the many biased agreements that multinational corporations use to exploit the Caribbean's resources, allowing them to make unfettered super profits. Despite vast oil reserves, these nations have been forced to accept unfavorable terms, robbing them of equal profit sharing and stifling their economic potential, often enabled by corrupt and incompetent energy executives and politicians. The installation of tax havens in US and UK territories in the Caribbean has also served to surreptitiously exacerbate the region's economic woes. The lack of due diligence processes and secretive beneficial ownership through shell companies has encouraged money laundering and tax evasion. Preferential tax treatment for foreign corporations and wealthy individuals has enabled billions of dollars to be siphoned away from the Caribbean economies, depriving them of much-needed revenue for social services and infrastructure. Another example of Western exploitation has been the unscrupulous land grab by foreign development companies in numerous islands, such as Barbuda, where ordinary tax-paying citizens have lost access to their beautiful beaches. These companies are often owned by the super-rich and political elites. Adding insult to injury, the racially biased perception of corruption in the Caribbean perpetuates harmful stereotypes and undermines efforts to address issues of governance and accountability. While corruption certainly exists in the region, it is portrayed in a one-dimensional manner, ignoring the root causes of poverty, inequality, and historical oppression. By shifting the focus away from structural reform and towards punitive measures such as blacklisting, the West further exacerbates and further entrenches its hegemony while ignoring the fact that billions of illicit cash flows are parked in its coffers. Historically, the Caribbean has not been short of defiant leaders. Fidel Castro epitomized this spirit. Denouncing imperialism and advocating for global solidarity, he inspired generations across the world. In Trinidad and Tobago, Eric Williams was a staunch advocate of Caribbean unity and self-reliance. Williams championed a vision of economic independence, calling for the diversification of the Caribbean economy and the empowerment of its people. Maurice Bishop of Grenada advocated voraciously for socioeconomic development, women's and workers' rights, and Caribbean unity, but was eventually executed by his desperate compatriots, puppets of the United States. More recently, Mia Mottley of Barbados has continued the resistance, confronting the forces of neocolonialism head-on. Mottley has been an articulate critic of the inequalities perpetuated by the global economic order, calling for a reimagining of the Caribbean's relationship with the West. In this context, the scolding of the BBC reporter by the president of Guyana was applauded throughout the region and the diaspora. Ali's outspoken and passionate defense of the region's views on development in the face of climate hypocrisy struck a chord with many who feel silenced by Western dominance and the legacy of economic violence. All this is not to excuse the leaders in the Caribbean, some of whom have proved to be astonishingly corrupt, incompetent, and self-serving. The hidden puppet masters that finance these politicians wield unfathomable power. It is also not to absolve the masses who continue to vote along partisan or racial lines. As they seek to chart a course towards a future of prosperity and equality, only through collective action and solidarity can the Caribbean break free from the shackles of the former colonialists whose only interest is neocolonialism through corporations and institutions. Despite the need for direct foreign investment, the Caribbean now needs to wake up and strengthen alliances with Africa, Asia, and South America, or others who come without a history of economic violence, the ones always portrayed as the villains by the self-serving biases of the West. That's an article in the Guardian, the UK Guardian of last week, Wednesday, and it was authored by Kenneth Mohammed. Now, we're due for our weather break, so that is our dish of the day.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grozile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style.
We have tiles and thin sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need, we sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style, take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an island style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarusa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Castries, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
So of course, to the 1 Wall, it's now time for the weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talamba. The forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the east, southeast, and southeast. 70 miles per hour, 28 kilometers per hour. The weather affected partly cloudy and hazy with a few showers. Also, there is an advisory here which reads persons with respiratory ailments and dust allergies are advised to take the necessary precautions. Also, small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to locally rough seas and reduced visibility. The forecast for the Lesser Antilles, partly cloudy to occasionally cloudy and hazy with widely scattered showers over the Leeward Islands and northern Windward Islands. Elsewhere, fair to partly cloudy and hazy with isolated showers. The weather summary: the Atlantic high pressure system will maintain moderate easterly to southeasterly winds across the eastern Caribbean region during the forecast period. Weak and stable conditions associated with a surface to low level trough will continue to generate cloudiness and scattered showers over the northern half of the Lesser Antilles during the next 24 hours. A plume of Saharan dust haze will cause a reduction in visibility and air quality across the eastern Caribbean region over the next couple of days. And this was your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talamba.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island style. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style.
We have tiles and insets, pieces and ground. Everything you need to sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarusa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Castries, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to our program here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And as well, you can call in to our WhatsApp number. That is 724-0008. So let's go to the phone lines at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Good afternoon, Mr. And I try to get to call you by your name, but when I get the line, I forget your name. Mr.
George.
Mr. George. So I like your program today. So let me make a contribution.
Sure, go right ahead.
So let me give you concerning the reparation. An idea I have.
Okay, go right ahead.
And all what I see, I hear you talking about. If the European have a ways to give us any reparation, first thing I believe in my knowledge you will touch on is our GDP. Because that is where we borrow money, we don't even know where the money comes from. Right? And I give another example again. I listened to the Prime Minister this morning. He's mentioning some people do some texting and say if they have to go in a way like to try to get in fuel from Trinidad or Venezuela, be careful of sanctions. So I give you an example of everybody have to listen to the program. What in future, if that is what that America do in every world, why government don't try to have an independent Ministry of Agriculture? If the Ministry of Agriculture are not working, have a dependent one so we can deliver ourselves from a lot of change in future. Because when I listen to the history of China, how they get in themselves to come out of the BTC, agriculture they use, and we have a lot of water. We have water. Without cutting trees and invest in agriculture, and then we can cut in a lot of farm spending.
Well, in the case of agriculture, I mean, all great powers around the world have a very solid agricultural base, and that you can go from, as you rightfully mentioned, China, the United States of America, Europe. It is important.
Yes,
but
so that's why America like IT, because they said, I understand that they have a good ground when they come into land for agriculture. I get this shit already.
Mm-hmm.
So everywhere America go, that is where the agriculture, when the land is fertile for agriculture.
Well, and that's one of the advantages that the United States has. It has a tremendous amount of arable land, and so that definitely benefits them. In the case of China, a bit more challenging geography, but they also do have significant areas of arable land. So that it does, but except that their population is very large, so they really have to maximize their production systems. But they've also done so through. It's not just about saying you're doing agriculture. It's mechanization. It's putting the systems in place, the infrastructure to be able to move your produce to market. That all of that is what really built America and China. So you're talking about your transportation networks, your rail networks. All of these things all come into play when we speak about agriculture.
Yes, so what I see that we can do, maybe I have to write a letter and drop it and the Prime Minister or other ministers to understand. I have a suggestion. Because you ask for one, so I make it to make the program a little shorter, or might and shorter. So let me go in for one I think we can do. Government tries to give in duty free, and every young people I want to create in farmer, creating anything in St. Lucia, duty free and machine. You see, machine is important for our growth. So the government can give duty free, and I can give in the name of the machine we need. We have a lot of things we throw in the dump, and all that we can manufacturing to be back to a lot of things to creating another alternative in St. Lucia. Well, so I see a lot of ways, and government acting on that again, because I will shut again. They asking the suggestion of anyone that have suggestion of how to solve the crime, you come forward. I give my forward. My forward is if government invests in the young people 100%. Because when I watch the level of crime, you know what I see? Is the employment they're creating and they end up dead. That's how I see it. You understand? If you're watching the crime, is a trade they're going through and it's not benefit them. By the end of it, they end up in the dead. That's how I see it. But if government invests in the young people 100%, take about $3 million and invest in the young people so they can create in something and they don't have no education and they come out from school. They want to engage in something. They have to eat. And if we're making a suggestion of St. Lucia by something constituency, by name, see how they live. They're living in poverty.
All right. Well,
nobody know how they will survive by the end of the day. Right. So that's where we have. That's a change we have to touch on, and then we can know where we're going.
Right. Thanks for that suggestion, caller, and have yourself a wonderful day.
Secondly?
I said thanks very much for your suggestion.
Oh, you too. Thanks.
And have yourself a very wonderful day. And of course, the point being made there by the caller, investment in people, I think is a very, very important one. And the need for human resources, human resource development is one that we've been speaking about for a very, very long time. And governments will say that, look, well, they are spending, the largest budget is in fact in education, but we've got to ensure that that is in fact one of the sectors that we have to give great priority to. It's not just about purely, the traditional education system that we've had, but certainly about the development of skills. And has been a major issue with what we've been seeing over the years. We've heard about the skills mismatch. We've heard that we don't have enough skilled people in certain sectors. And so definitely improving that is a major one. I know, for instance, that the Ministry of Education has been saying that they're working to create some TVET schools, schools that are going to specialize in technical vocational education. And I think that certainly is a very important move. But the other thing about it, too, is that we've got to be careful not to necessarily just box people into one school or another. I am a firm believer of comprehensive education and being able to provide opportunities for everybody, especially at that level. So you've got very good exposure for everybody towards various areas of interest, and so that's very important. That we should be moving into that direction. Certainly for individuals from a secondary school level, that they are getting that exposure, and then at the post-secondary level, that they can then move on to institutions that are providing those services. Now, very early on, you would recall, I think in the first Kenny Anthony administration, the creation of the National Skills Development Center. And that institution is certainly a vital one. Perhaps it doesn't get enough of its flowers that it deserves. But then the question is, for some of its courses, they are free, but many are not. And so how do you get those types of bursaries and scholarships for individuals who can, in fact, go into some of these programs, and ensuring that they're getting the skills in the areas that are in demand? That, I think, is a critical thing. In fact, there was a very interesting presentation at the recent Eastern Caribbean Central Bank Growth and Resilience Dialogue, which happened over in St. Kitts and Nevis sometime, I think it was last week or the beginning of this week. And it really focused on that issue of doing that environmental scan, that global scan, to say where is the demand in terms of skills from around the world. Where is that demand? And how are we, in fact, are we meeting that through the programming that we actually have at the education, within our education sector? So that is important. And quite often we find that our system is a little slow, well, one can say very slow to catch up when it comes to this matter of being able to teach the right skills at the right time. Now, of course, the world has changed tremendously in terms of how people acquire knowledge, and we certainly have to keep up in that regard. Online education is a very big deal, and even the presenter was making the point that a lot of people are actually learning from this public commons that exists for everybody at this point in time. And there are these platforms that are actually free, and people can learn and share knowledge on these platforms. And in fact, she was making the point that she had learned, she was a beneficiary of somebody who was doing some sort of hairstyling for her. And then she asked the person, well, how did you learn how to do this hairstyle so very well? And the person said, YouTube. Right? And you are finding that a lot of people are actually learning from those platforms. Now, it then means, though, that you, in terms of the education system, how it actually benefits from that, how is it dealing with things like artificial intelligence and the use of artificial intelligence for learning and for the workplace, we certainly have to be keeping up with these trends, because they are going to have tremendous impact on the world of work. There have been many predictions that we're going to be seeing some tremendous shifts in terms of certain sectors in the coming years ahead, and it may mean that lots of jobs may go out of the door. And new jobs will be created, but they will require certain skills and certain aptitudes. Skills that are going to be looked for certainly a lot more, a lot of technical skills, yes, but also the creative element, the creative thinking, the design aspect. That's really important in the future world of work. And so when we think about our education system again, we quite often place our arts education as least priority, in terms of whether it's art, it's visual arts, whether it's music, whether it's dance, whether it's theater or drama. Those things, in fact, in some countries, are compulsory. That is the case in a country like Finland, for instance, that has been quite often raised up as a model for success based on its the performance of its students on some international benchmarking of education systems around the world, particularly one named PISA. But that country has, in fact, gone for a model of comprehensive education. That's one of the hallmarks of their education system. They make the point that, yes, they have exams, but they don't place as much emphasis on just the exams itself. It's about how you learn and ensuring that you can acquire skills as well. They've also, as I mentioned, put a premium on ensuring that everybody has arts education. And why is that important? Because it actually helps in terms of creativity. It helps in terms of how people think and innovate. And so that's also very, very critical for our education system. So all of these really have to kind of come together to enrich the opportunities that we are giving our citizens. So definitely the caller is right that we do need to do a lot more in terms of our youth, and from age 0, right, as high up as we can go, right, in terms of support for post-secondary education. Because the longer we can get our children to remain in school, generally speaking, the better off they will be. And so the risk then you end up with is that you now find yourself in a situation where individuals will be very much sought after. And so that visa is going to come. And of course, there are going to be offers for individuals to migrate and to go into other countries to provide, to benefit those countries and their GDP growth. And quite often we feel as if we've actually lost out. But we then have to see how, in a connected world, we can ensure that even when individuals are taking up opportunities wherever they may be around the world, that they can still, in fact, be providing and giving back to the country that has actually invested in them and has given them that helping hand. So it is very important that we take that approach. One can say perhaps we don't have enough, we cannot produce enough nurses because of the global demand for nursing and for healthcare services. It's going to continue to grow. And so therefore, there should be certainly some emphasis in seeing how that is done. But at the same time, we know the problem that we find, the high level of attrition with respect to nurses because of the more attractive compensation that can be provided in other parts of the world where healthcare is placed at a premium and people spend quite a lot of money on that. And so we definitely have to figure out that that balance. Now, this is a conversation that we've been having for quite some time. I think back, for instance, even to the current Director General of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, making a point about this matter of nursing in particular and seeing, hey, is there some form of system that we can put in place to manage what is already going on and to ensure that, look, there's nothing wrong with a nurse wanting to go and work for some time over in New York or wherever the case may be, but let them do it maybe half the year or maybe for a 2-year stint and then come back and spend another 2 years, some sort of arrangement so that it actually benefits the country as well, that we are still getting a better situation. But of course, this is the nature of the economic systems that we are finding ourselves in, and it will mean that people will, and there's nothing wrong with that, want to move around and take up opportunities in what is certainly a very mobile and connected global space. That's our that's our program for today, and we'll be back again tomorrow for another one. I hope you can join us for that. Of course, thanks to those who called in and commented in the chat, and we do hope that you can join us for another program tomorrow. I'm your host, Alex George Jr., saying goodbye.